Okay, good Erev Shabbos. We're in the middle of a sugya of when the poil gets the food. Is it mishaloi, meaning it's a teisefes on his schar, it's in addition to his schar, or no, when the poil gets min hashemayim that yuzaycha. So that's the shaila. Now, we're up to Toshma, we're trying to be part of the shaila, on Tzadik Beis, Amid Beis, parallel to the second to the last Taisvis, the Mayu Kimta. If you go across one line up, it says Toshma. So this is the next Mishnah, which we'll see soon. Adam al yedei atzmai. A person can go ahead and cut a deal for himself. In other words, he could say, listen, I don't want any food, but I'll take, in lieu of food, I'll take a little extra cash. I don't want any food. I can be, he's kaitzates to take cash. Al yedei beno bitoy gedolim. He could also be kaitzates that to take their schar. In other words, whatever food coming to them, he can go ahead with it and be kaitzates. Al yedei avdoi v'shivchasei hagedolim v'al yedei ishtoi v'fnei yesh ben das. All these people have das, and as a result, they can be meichel the food that they would be getting when they work, and now he's going to get, in lieu of that food, he's going to get the money. So he can be kaitzes for himself and for all these people who are gedolim. Aval eina kaitzes, he cannot make this deal. Lo yal yedei beno ubitoi ketanim, not for his younger children. Lo yal yedei avdei v'shivchasei ketanim, nor for his evet kenanim. Lo yal yedei behemasai. No, so why? None of these have das. And none of these have das. So to set the ball in motion, you have your older sons going to work. They're entitled to what? To food. You can cut the deal that the money for the food should go to you. And if it's a eved, that's a godly, you do the same thing. However, ketanim, whether it's children or avodim that are ketanim, you cannot. Now, salkadaytach amina lehem. The havamina is that salkadaytach b'maylim mizaynis. Now, why is he entitled to their schar? Because he is what? Paying them food. In other words, you don't have to, I'm giving you food, whatever money you make, I'll take. Good? So in other words, he's in lieu of them. He's in lieu of them. Now, Bishleim, you're going to tell me that what? That the food comes from Shemayim, Mishum Hachi Eina Kaitzets. For the Evet, now, how would it work for the Gedolim? How would it work for the Gedolim? That they have, whatever rights Shemayim gives them, they could go ahead and shift over to him. Right? But if you're telling me, right, if you're telling me that Mishamayim Uzaycha, I can understand the Ketanim can't do that. Ketanim, there's no Zechia by a cotton, only when it comes to their mouth. So in other words, Bishlema, if you tell me he's providing them food and he can be in place of them, I can explain the discrepancy between the Gadol and the cotton, the Gadol giving him over the food, the money for the food, and the cotton not. Because if Bishamayim, they're getting it, so now they got it, and whatever Mishamayim would get, since I'm giving you food, it goes to me. By a cotton or katana, then there can be zoicha to give it over, and I can understand that's why you can't be kaitzates for them. If you're going to tell me that what? That they eat his, so once he's going ahead and paying for them, once he's going ahead and he he's just like now, since he's feeding them and he gets their schar, so once he gets their schar, he should get their money too, and their food also, and therefore even the cotton katana, he should be able to be kaitzetz. In other words, if it's Shemayim, I understand the distinction between the gadol and the cotton, because the cotton has no schia, can't be zeicha in it to give it over to him. But if you're telling me Mishalohu zeicha, so he's feeding them, and as a result of feeding them, and he's taking their place, and it belongs to him. So it belongs to him. So l'chayra, why can't he be kaitzis for the cotton katana as well? El l'chayra, we have a raya that mishamayim hesa. Mishamayim, that's mishamayim. So Eli Amri Mishalahu Oichel Ketanim Nami Niketz Lahu Ketanim. Also, you should be able to cut the deal. Says Mahachamayskinon B'Shem Ma'ila B'Zainis. Okay, so you're not being Ma'ila B'Zainis. Okay, so now, if that's the case that you're not feeding them, so why by the gadol can you go ahead and be kaitzetz? In other words, Bishlema, you're feeding them, you could take their place. But if you're not feeding them, what are they getting? What are they getting to go ahead on and give it to you? Says the Gemara, Ihachi Gedolim Nami. Gedolim also, you should not be able to go ahead and make this deal. Says Gedolim Yada, Gedolim no, the Michael and the Michael. So the Gedolim no and the Michael. And it's after all, they're Ketanim, their Avodim who live by him, their children who are being supported by him. And even though you're not Malam Mizaynis in this, but again, so they'll work and they'll say it could be yours. So Enachinami could be Mishalahu Zaycha, but since you're not giving them anything, so therefore you don't have a right in it. How could you be Kaitzetz? Because they're Michael. But a cotton or a katana is not a bar mechila. They can't be Michael. So therefore you have no raya from this case that Mishal Shemayim, right? Because it could be Mishaloi and I still can learn Pshat. It could be Mishaloi and I can learn Pshat. Now, V'hatani Rabbi Shia, Kaitzitz Adam al Yedei Atzmai, al Yedei Ishtoi, you can go ahead and make this deal for yourself, for your wife. Avaloi al Yedei Behemasai, so far the same as the Mishnah. Al Yedei Benoy Bita Gedailim, same as the Mishnah. Avaloi al Yedei Beno Bitu Ketanim, right? But not for Benoy Bita Ketanim. Notice, doesn't say anything about Eved. It just said what? It just said children. Because this al Yedei Avliv Shechasei Kananim, Ben Gedailim, Ben Ketanim. There's your problem. In the Brisa, you could be kaitzis for ketanim. Guys, it's very important to get the steerer down. In the Resha, you cannot be our Mishnah. You cannot be kaitzis, neither for what for your children, nor for what for the avodim. In the Brisa, you can't be kaitzis for your children, but you could be kaitzitz for the shifcha or eved kanani. That's a cotton. So that's a stira. That one prat, eved cotton, eved kanani cotton or katana. That's a prat. So what's the difference between the Mishnah that you can't and the Brisa that you could? My love, edi b'maylam b'zaynis. Both the Mishnah and Rabbi Oshia's Brisa is speaking where you provided food, and therefore you have a right to the produce. Ubaha kamiflgi. The Masava, the Brisa that holds you could be kaitzetz, Mishalahu oichel, must hold that what? That the food given to him is a taisefes on his star. And therefore it belonged to him in the first place, and therefore he can be taisef for the Eved. The Gemara is going to ask, so why can't he do it for the sons and daughter? Umasava, and the Mishnah holds, Mishal Shemayim oichel. So this would be in other words, in answer to the question, we could say it's a machloikis what? A tanoim. Our Mishnah, guys, that does not allow you to be mizaket to be kaitzitz for a katana is because it's not yours. It comes from Shemayim. And the only way from mizaket b'Shemayim is the other person gives you that right. But if the cotton is only zeichem when he eats it, so therefore he can't be mizaket, give it to you beforehand. That's our Mishnah. The Brisa that says that by a cotton you could be kaitzitz is because it holds mishaloi. And since you were Milam Mizainis, it belongs to you, and the Haisefis belongs to you, and that will be a beautiful way to explain the stira of Ketana and cotton by the Mishnah that says Ein Kaitzitz, and the Brisa that says Kaitzitz. That would be the best way to explain the Mishnah. Okay, says the Gemara. Loi. Now that you think it's a Machlokas Tanoim, we say Loi. It's not true. The Kuli Alma, everyone holds Mishalahu Oichel. Everyone holds Mishaloi. He that eats from himself. Okay, so now, if everyone holds eats from himself, what's shver the Mishnah? Our Mishnah is shver, because then why can't he be kaitzitz for the cotton and the katana? But like Hasha, kam b'she'ein ma'ila mizainis. Our Mishnah is speaking where you're not ma'ila mizainis. Since you're not ma'ila mizainis, so the cotton can't be Michael. Masha'ein came the gadol is the bar mechila, you could be Michael. Who brisa b'ma'ila mizainis. And the Brisa is speaking where you're Mailam Mizainis. Okay, so everyone can hold me Shaloi, and I can explain the Reisha and the Seifa. In the Reisha of our Mishnah, even if you're being Mailam Mizainis, right? Our Mishnah that's speaking where you're not Mailam Mizainis, guys. So therefore, you can't make this deal for the cotton. Why could you make the deal for the Gadol? Why? Because he's Michael. In the Brisa, the second Brisa, it's speaking that what it's speaking that you are Milam Zainis. So if you are Milam Zainis, then you could cut the deal for the cotton. So now, in the price of Rabbi Shia, guys, there was a distinction between the children and the Eved. Only the Eved Ketana you could, but the Ketanim you couldn't. If it's speaking about that you're Milam Zainis, why can't you do it for the children that are Ketanim? Says the Gemara. So now, b'mayu kimta, b'mayu lamezainis. How do you? Is that not the brisa that it's speaking where you gave food, you're providing food. Ihachi, if you're providing food, ketanim nami naketz lahu. Then by ketanim also you should be able to go ahead and make that deal. You should be able to make that deal, guys. Look at the first wide line. The first wide line. Avaloi al yedei b'no ubitu aketanim. This is the brisa. And it says you cannot go ahead and cut this deal for your son or daughter that are ketanim. But if you're telling me you're Ma'il Mizainis, why can't you? What's the difference between the Eved that you can't, you could, and the young children that you can't? If it's Ma'il Mizainis, you should be able to. So very well, you're answering the stira about ketanim that the Mishnah says you can't. That's a Ma'il Mizainis. But the brisa you could because you're Ma'il Mizainis. But you just created another problem in that segment of the brisa that said when it comes to children, young children, you can't be kaitzetz. But if you're Ma'il Mizainis, you should be able to be kaitzetz. Says Gemara, Sarayu deboy b'toy ketanam leisach le'rachman. In other words, the people who are older, they're working, and you're Ma'il Mizainis. Okay, great, I could wait. But you have these little kids who are working in the field with luscious grapes, and they're getting hungry. You're going to say they can't eat? That's tsar. So in other words, the monistic part you could take care of would be Ma'il Mizainis, but not the tsar. An Eved, you could go ahead and a difference between an Eved and that. Okay? So right now we have no way of explaining the query that we started out with. Is Bishaloi Bishal Shemayim. We thought it's a Machloikis Brisa and Mishnah. And we're saying there's other ways to explain the machlekes, the brisa and the Mishnah, without coming on to bishaloi ubishal shemayim. That's where we're holding right now. Okay, now b'mayu kimtul masnisan, our Mishnah that said you can't be kaitzetz by an evet katana or cotton is b'shei ma'il mizainis. That's of course you are a ma'il mizainis. Now we know there's a machlekes we've had in Ksubis and in Gittin. Can a Rav tell an Eved, work for me and I won't feed you anything? So this works out well that a Rav cannot say to an Eved, Asa imi, work for me, and I won't support you, Shapir. So very good. You're not my limazainis, but again, since you're not supporting me, I can eat. You know, you can't take away my food. So that would explain why you can't be kaitzetz. That even though what you're working for me, I could say you work for nothing. So if you can work for nothing, in other words, the Mishnah that says you cannot go ahead and be kaitzitz for evet katana because what? Because you're not providing food. That would only work out according to one tzad, the tzad that you can't tell an evet that, but like the tzad that you could tell an evet that. Don't worry. I don't have to feed you. You should be able to be kaitzitz. After all, the fact that you're not Ma'il Mizainis doesn't make a difference because you don't have to give them food. Because of this kasha, we're back to the stira again between the two. How do you explain the difference between the Mishnah and the Brisa? The Mishnah is saying ain't kaitzitz, and the Brisa is saying kaitzitz. They're both speaking when you're not Ma'il Mizainis. Say the Mishnah and say the Rabbi Shia. So now, if it's speaking a Ma'il Mizainis, right? So what's pshat by Rabbi Shia? Then why can you be kaitzitz? Pligi. The Masava Yachol, the Brisa holds that you're able to tell an Eved, work for me, and I won't feed you. So the fact that you're not feeding, it's not Ma'il Moira, it doesn't make a difference. And therefore, the Eved, you could be kaitzitz. Umasava, and the Tana of our Mishnah holds, ein Yachol, you're not able to. So since you're not able to, so one more time. According to the Brisa that kaitzitz, you could be kaitzitz, it's speaking yachol. You could tell him, you know what, I don't have to feed you. and therefore you're in my jurisdiction. I can do what I want, and I can be kaitzitz. The Mishnah that says that you can't is because you're not able to tell the Eved that, and since you're not being ma'alim mezainis, therefore the katana you can't be kaitzitz. So now it comes out that our Mishnah says ein yachol, you're not able to, right? That you can't tell an Eved not to work. The Gemara of Rabbi Yochanan yachol Rav. According to Rabbi Yochanan, it says the Rav could do it. Comes out that Rabbi Yochanan is going to agree with a brisa rather than the Mishnah, and we all know that the Mishnah is much more dependable in pshat. Rabbi put it in than the brisa, right? It's much more exact. For the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan, the Amar Yachal Rav Shavik Maslisan is lead on Mishnah, right? That says Ein Yachal v'Avid Kabrisa that says that Yachal El Kulyam B'Sheshamayim Yachal because they had kasha. Back to the original again. Ella the Kulyam B'Sheshamayim. Okay, so now what's problematic? It was B'Shel Shemayim. So why then can he be? Why then can he be? Kaitzetz el kolam b'shamayim hu eichel, v'leimatzi katzitz, and therefore he can't be katzitz. Well, my kaitzetz, when it says that in the brisa you could be kaitzetz, dam Rabbi Shia mizainis the kavas mizainis. Guys, until now, you know what we thought kaitzetz meant? Cut a deal. Instead of the food, give me money. Now we're speaking about another deal. Kaitzetz, he can make another deal, nothing to do with him eating. Kaitzetz that he eats beforehand. So since he's eating beforehand, he'll eat less. So Rabbi Shia is saying you could make a deal that they could eat less. So therefore, I can make a deal for my katanim to eat beforehand rather than in the field and save myself some money. So it's not a steer whatsoever. The Brisa and the Mishnah are speaking about two different ketzitzos. Our Mishnah is speaking about going ahead and saying in lieu of eating in the field, money. This is speaking about what? Providing food beforehand to ensure they won't eat. So there's no stira. The problem is, it says over there, you can't do it by a cow, behema. But 1 second, if that's what kaitzitz means, you should be able to do it by behema as well, right? We said you can take fodder and spread it out, right? And let it eat the fodder and not eat the food, says the Gemara. Very geschmack. My kaitzitz the kavasa gav behema is teven. So nakitzla. So why do you say you can't make a deal by the behema? You should be able to make a deal by the behema. Just like you made a deal. Okay, we got a problem. Back to the original stira, guys. How do you explain the stira? We tried a bunch of different ways. We tried to say it's machloikis b'shaloi b'shel shemayim. We tried to say it's tali and b'maylim b'zainis. We tried to say it's tali whether Rav could tell an Eved. Now you want to tell me it's tali what? In whether k'tzitza means cutting a deal for money instead of food or just providing food. So we're at our wit's end. How do you explain the stira? Ella says the Gemara, b'hakam iflagi. Guys, talking about this is a 360. The masav of mishalahu oichel, the masav mishal shemaim oichel. Einachinami. That's the only way to explain it. The brisa that holds that you could be kaitzitz holds b'shaloi, and the Mishnah that says you can't be kaitzitz holds b'sheshamayim. So we can be patient the shaila that's machloikis ta noyim. Anybody want to go over that outside again? You got the cheshbon. I mean, the cheshbon goes through. Okay, the Gemara gets a little easier. Okay, it should get very easy now because this Mishnah was the one just quoted. A person can go ahead and make a deal, right? He says, "Listen, instead of me going ahead and getting food, give me money, and give me money." He can do it for his children that are gedolim. For his servants that are gedolim. His wife, all these people are bendas. They can be Michael. You can't do it for his children. Because again, they don't have das. Okay, the last name of the Mishnah. We did this yesterday as well. Someone who rents poilim, lasas benet ravoi shaloi. And net the ravoi, the 4th year after a fruit-bearing tree's life, it has a din of ma'aser sheni. You have to bring to Yerushalayim. If you contract it to work in that field, you can't eat. Again, if you didn't know it's net the ravoi, we spoke about michzik mechak tois, and then you would be able to eat, right? The poidu meichel. The Gemara said if it's shel shemayim, why are you doing that? Why if it's asa? And we said because michzik mechak tois. Mashenkin over here, where the guy knew clearly he doesn't eat. Right. If he didn't tell him, then poida is poidu machilan. Again, and we explained it yesterday that it's speaking that it looks like a mekach tois. Nisparsu egulov, We said that the ugel had been, it broke apart, the date press, it broke apart. And the spot chavias, or the chavias wat, was open, and he's hired to close it. And it's going according to Rabbi Akiva that the person who closed it would usually skim off the top. However, then you take off ma'asu machilon. The Gemara said they should have checked it out beforehand. The Gemara said, how's it supposed to know? And therefore, Shami Paris. Okay, so everything we did, it's Mishnah, guys, interesting. All this Gemara, because of the dialogue of Mishaloi who Mishal Shemayim, was explained in the previous Gemara. It's very usually Gemara is explained on the Mishnah itself. This Mishnah was quoted and explained before, right? It's fascinating. However, now here's the din that we didn't bring before. Shomrei Paris, Oichlin behilchas Medina, avalai min haTorah. People who go ahead and are scarecrows, they watch Paris. I guess not scarecrows. They're not there to scare away that birds. They're there to watch that no one takes it. So now, Shomrei Paris, Oichlin behilchas Medina. From that, Rashi says kvar nogu kain, that the Medina was noig this avalai min haTorah, but they don't eat min haTorah. The question is going to be, how do you view a shomrei Paris? Is he doing an action or not? Kisove became right? And you're harvesting, you're working. Is being a shomer considered work or not? And then we have to see, what is he watching? Is it a gemar malacha or not? So in other words, there's two things. A, is he a payil? And B, what is he watching? Does it fall in the dialogue, in the category of something that's not gemar malacha yet, that he will be able to eat or not? Says the Gemara, Shomrei Paris, Amarav, Loishanu, that we said that what, Loishanu, that he eats Medina, is that, in other words, that said from Medina is Shomrei Ginois Upardesim. You're watching orchards and groves. In other words, it's not Gemar Malacha time. It's Mechubal Lekarka. You're not working at all, and you're watching it. So the minig Medina, you would be able to go ahead and eat, despite the fact that what, according to the Torah guidelines, you would not eat. After all, fellas, you're not Gemar Malacha now. It's connected to the ground. It's not disattached. So you're not disattaching it. So that you could eat is only this minig. If you're watching the presses and the harvested, you're watching and it's disattached, then you'll eat min haTorah. So regarding, as I preface this Gemara, I preface two things. One, is he considered a worker? And two, the produce, the object, is he involved with? Is it something subject to him being able to eat or not? In this case, we're saying that Rav is saying the object itself is not something he'd normally be able to eat from. Therefore, the only reason he would be able to eat from it is al Semitic Medina. What about if it's produce that you could eat from? Then it would be subject if considered that he's working or not. So if it's ginois supradesim, that is a food that is not what is something he could eat from now. That he eats from it is only because of the Medina. On the other hand, if it's speaking about gisais areimos, where the piles, and it's so the only question is he working or not? Says Rav, shomer is kemaisa dami, and therefore he'll eat min haTorah. And that's what the Gemara says. Shomer peres, some Rav leishon shomer ginas perdesim. Al shomer gisais areimos oichle min haTorah, because kusavar mishamer koisa maisa dami. If you watch something, it's like oisa maisa. So Rav is qualifying the Mishnah. He's saying this din of shomer peres that it says you eat because in the Medina is speaking about produce that what you would normally not be able to eat. Why? Because it's not Gemar Malacha yet. But if it is Gemar Malacha, then you would eat. Why? Because you're considered a worker and you eat min haTorah. Ushmul Amar lo yishanu el shomer gisas v'areimos. No, this din of the Mishnah that said that shomer Medina is speaking about it's disattached. It's disattached, but you're not considered a worker. You're shomer, but you're not a worker. Aval shomer ginas perdesim eno eichlem. You don't eat loy min haTorah, loy helps dinner. You don't eat period. Now, why not? Why don't you eat period? Is because it's not a final gemar. It's no gemar malacha. There's nothing happening now. Aval shomer ginus upardesim ein oichel lemin atarv lemin hilchos medina kusavar mishamer lav koisem meisadami. Okay, outside guys, outside. Let's get two places and one job. This guy is a shomer. He can be shomer of place A or place B. Place A is a place where there's no gemar malacha yet. You're not harvesting yet. You're just simply watching that no one steals it. Good? Good. Now, if you were a worker, would you be able to eat? No, you won't be able to eat. Says Rav, you'll be able to eat based upon minig, but not minat Torah. Minat Torah, it's not gemar malacha. You won't be able to eat. What about if you're watching it and there's a harvest going on? Watching, then you would be able to eat. But one second, I'm not working. Rav says being a shomer is tantamount to the maisa. So you are a full-fledged worker. You're a security guard. You're a full-fledged worker. That's Rav. Says Shmuel, no. Says Shmuel, a shomer is not a worker. Says Rav, a shomer is not a worker. So therefore, in place B, where they're harvesting it, where it's going to be, right, where a normal worker would eat, there he eats al smidig medina, because he's really not a worker. But the object that's being harvested is, but place A, where the object is attached to the trees and there's nothing happening with Gemar Malacha, and since he's a shomer and he's not working, he would not eat not only midrabanon, not only midraisa, but not even midrabanon. That's the machlokes between Rav and Shmuel. How do you view it? So in place B, they both hold you eat. Shmuel says minig, and Rav minat Torah. In place A, Rav says you eat midrabanon minig, and Shmuel says you don't eat at all. That's the Gemara. Masav Ravacha bar Rav Huna Hamishamer es hapara. Someone is watching the para aduma. Para aduma, from the time it's shechted until you gather in the efer, it's mitama. So someone is watching it mitama begodim. It's mitama is begodim. Now, vi amit mishamer lav koisem meisadami. If you hold like Shmuel that watching is not doing an action, amai mitama begodim. Why are his clothing tamei? If he's simply watching and it's not considered an action, so it's no different than you looking at me on the screen right now. Ella must be that what? Mishamar is koisa maisa like Rav. Says Gemara, Ama Rabba Barula, Gezerah Shemayazis Ba'eder. Now that really it's only Gezerah, maybe he'll touch the thing. That's his Matam Begad, the main Achinami. Ken Zayin what? Shomer is Lav Kamaisa. And the reason you tell me is a Gezerah, also maybe you touch the limb. Masa Rav Kahana. Hamashabe Arba V'chamisha Mikshois. You're a cucumber watcher. So your guy has 5 patches and you're watching for 5 different individuals. He shouldn't fill his stomach from one of the patches, but kind of spread the wealth around. Don't go ahead and overdo it in one patch. Spread it around. Why is he eating? It wasn't Gemar Malacha L'maisa, so why is he able to eat? So you're watching something that's mechubar, right? Look at Rashi, guys. Amai oichel, Marish parallel to the Gemara. Amai oichel, ha'amit shoymei mechubar. If someone's watching something attached to the ground, I feel mehilchas medina lo yachli. Even mehilchas medina, Shmuel said you don't eat. El karcha kois meisadami. It must be that what you're doing an action. The oichel miyah mehilchas medina like Rav. Himas nisan mechal de shoymei polish. I feel medaraisa nami yachli. In other words, you're asking a lom de shikasha. He's watching something that's mechubar to the ground, and you're telling me you could eat. So right away, guys, it's not like Shmuel, because Shmuel said something. Again, this is place A. Shmuel said place A, you don't eat midaraisa midrabanan. Period. This is tantamount to place A. You're watching kishuim; they're not being harvested, and it says you could eat. So obviously, it must be according to Rav. It must be according to Rav. And why are you eating in place A? Because shomer is what? Shomer is kois maisa. Mashma in place B, you would be able to eat afil deraisa, like Rav. That's the kasha. So you see, a shomer is what doing a maisa. It says, Amar Rav Simi Rashi be'akurin shanu. We're not speaking that it's mechuber. We're speaking about he's washing disattached cucumbers. Once they're disattached, he has every right to eat. It says, Makurin v'alei nigma malachta l'maisa. How could he eat? He didn't have a gemar malacha yet for maisa. Why? Says the Gemara, Shlenitel Pika Shalahem. Okay, so there was a Gemara Malacha. What was the Gemara Malacha? That you took off the blossom. Since you took off the blossom, there was a Gemara Malacha, and therefore you could eat. Amar Rashi, Kavasi Dishmul Mistabra. It's Kavasi Dishmul Mistabra. That by Mechuber you can eat Machmas Medina. By Mechuber you can't eat, period. Guys, again, Malish Shmuel hold. Place A, Afilu Midraisa you can't eat. Afilu Midrabanan you can't eat. Place B, you can eat Midrabanan, even though you're not working. Again, Shmuel holds a Shem is not a worker. Once you're not a worker, you have to find a reason why are you allowed to eat. So if it's place B where it's speaking where it's harvested, so Minig Medina you eat. If it's place A where even a poil would not be able to eat, you can't eat, period, either. Good. That's now. We're going to bring a riot to that. Says the Gemara. Hani Kavasi Dishmol. Amar Rashi Kavasi Dishmol Mistabed. It's nan a Mishnah. Ve'elu oichlim min haTorah. Ha'oisem b'mechubel lekarka b'shas gemar malacha u'b'talish nechlal de'ika deloika ochlim min haTorah ela mehilchas Medina. When you go ahead, this is a little. We'll see the Rashis on this. Okay, Amos Sefer, Firais, Amos Sefer, the Elu she'enon oichlin, these don't eat at all. Now, my eno oichlin, what does it mean they don't eat at all? Ilay Mishen oichlin minat Torah, element melchus Medina. If you say they don't eat minat Torah, but eat melchus Medina, hain Reisha. What did the Reisha say? The Reisha made a distinction. These are the ones who eat minat Torah when it's mechubel karko ubetalish. Okay, so now it says it must be there's those who that you can infer they don't eat minat Torah, but they eat melchus Medina. Guys, look at me. These are the ones who eat minat Torah. There are other places that you don't eat minat Torah, you eat midrabanan. So now, then the Reisha says ve'edel ein oichlin, and these are don't eat. What are you going to say? Ein oichlin what midivrei Torah, but yesh oichlin what midrabanan. Then the Reisha and the Sefer the exact same thing. And it must be ein oichlin klal, like Shmuel, that you don't eat at all. Says the Gemara. Let's see it inside again one more time. Did not ve'elu oichlin minat Torah. Ha'osim mechubel karka b'shas gemar malacha u'betalish nechal de'ikad loika ochel minat Torah elam melchus Medina. Ema seifa ve'elu she'ein oichlin ma ein oichlin ilay she'ein oichlin minat Torah elam melchus Medina. They do eat hainu reisha. That's the exact same case as the reisha. Ela lav she'ein oichlin loy minat Torah loy melchus Medina. U'may niu oisim mechubel karka b'shas she'ein gemar malacha. Someone who works b'mechubel karka and it's not the gemar malacha. The kol shkein shoymei ginas v'erdesios. Who, according to Shmuel, are not considered workers at all because they're only shomrim. So you have a raya from the Mishnah like Shmuel. Okay, this din of Hilchas Medina, according to Rav, is speaking b'mechuba shalei b'shas gemar malacha. According to Shmuel, it's speaking b'shas is speaking about something that was harvested already before gemar malacha. That's before the lamaisa. And you're eating mid the rabbanon because min Medina because you're not actually working because you're only a shaymer. Says the Mishnah. Now we finished the halachas of shaymerim of workers, and now we get to the halachas of shaymerim, which you all know. Just to reiterate, there are 4 shaymerim, 3 that are written in the Torah. The first parsha is Shema Chinam. The second parsha is Shema Sacha. The third parsha is Shoyel. All in I think Shmos base. They're all in the Shpatim. Then there is a seicher. There's a renter. We have machloikis. There's a seicher k'shema sacha or k'shema chinam. It's machloikis who between Reb Meir and Reb Yehuda, and sometimes we even switched around Reb Yehuda and Reb Meir. Says the Mishnah. Abba shemim heim shema chinam v'hashoyel neisasacha v'haseicher. Shema chinam nishba ala kol. Shema chinam swears on everything, and he gets off the hook. He's only chai. He's chai. He swears he wasn't pasheya. But shoyel mishalem esakol. He pays everything, even einsin. When I say sacha and shema sacha v'haseicher, this is the opinion that he's a shema sacha and a seicher, a renter. Yishboyin al shvur al mesa. They swear on einis al mesa. Mishalem es aveda v'esagneva. Now we saw guys throughout the alimudim geneva aveda lav dafka geneva aveda. What's this oinus compared to? In other words, I can have a geneva that's an oinus. You have a list of mizuyim. Guy puts a gun to your head. that's an oinus. It's geneva. It's all. The question is the oinus itself? It's something closer to geneva aveda and yechayev or not? So again, it's very, very much depends upon the situation and the place at the time. Man tana arba shoymrim, Rav Nachman, Rab Ravu, Rab Meir. Amala Rav Nachman. Mi ikad delesle abba shoymrim. What are you talking about? Everyone holds their 4 shoymrim. So Amalei hachi kamin ulcha. Man tana seicher kenoise sacher. Who's the tana who holds a seicher? Who's the tana who holds that a seicher is kenoise sacher? Who's the tana who holds that a shoyme sacher is like a renter? Reb Meir, it's Reb Meir, but right? We hear the opposite. The Tanya seicher kesem mishalem. A seicher, how does he pay? Reb Meir oimek kashem achina. Reb Yudah oimek kashem sacher. Says, he learned the opposite. In other words, he learned that the question is Reb Meir the one who says kashem sacha or the opposite. Again, so shemachinam pater and everything except pshia. Shem sacha pater ba'insin chay b'nei vaveda. Soicha machloikas whether shemachinam or like a shem sacha. Shoyl is chay and everything. I feel oinsin. I think he's only pater from meis machmas malacha. Says the Gemara, ihachi arba shloisheninu. If you're telling me the din of the soicher is like a shemachinam or like a shem sacha, you only have 3 shoymim. I mean, you really have 3 halachas. Says Nachman Yitzchak, Dalit shoymim. There are 4 shoymim. However, the dineim shleisha, their dinim awad are 3. The dinim are 3. Ahu Raya, there was the shepherd. Dabi Koraya Chiyusa Agud in our papa. He was going ahead and he was grazing his sheep on the river of Papa. Now, a Stamaroya is a Shemesacha. Stamaroya is a Shemesacha, so he's going to be Pata from Einstein, Chaybin Nevaveda, Shorik Chadaminayu, Vinachlos Lamaya. One of the flock went ahead, slipped, and fell into the water, I guess, and drowned, or it was washed away. Asla Kamei the Rabba, Upatre. So he held it was an oinus, right? He must have held it was an oinus. So Amar, my Havel Meved, right? What could he have done? Says the Gemara on the base. He watched the way people watch. So this, if he watched the way people watch, this is the norm. Another way of explaining, guys, that Yechayev Genev Aveda or Chayev Ba'insin or Pater is what level of Shmira is required. We were introduced to different levels of Shmira in Baba Kama. Does a Tam require a high level of Shmira? Or does a mu'ud require a high level of shmira? You would think a mu'ud requires a high level of shmira because it's used to goring. We saw an opinion there that a tam requires a high level. Why? Because since the mu'ud has a reputation, others will watch themselves from it. In other words, who requires a high level of shmira? You think a pit bull or a poodle? So you say a pit bull. There's another day, a guy sees a pit bull walking down the street. Guess what? He goes the other way, So it requires less of shmira because naturally people are going to avoid it. So Mamela, we've had the same concept by Shomrim. You could expect the Shema Sacha to go ahead and watch a better level of Shmira than a Shemachinam. After all, he's being paid. Now, what is that level of Shmira called? Notra Kidenatre Inshi. He watched the way people watch. This Shomer, this Roya, watched the normal way. And that it fell in the river is not close to Geneva Vaveda, but it's considered oinus. Look at the top Rashi. Hanatra Kidenatre Inshi. The Ein Ze Aveda, it's not Aveda, El oinus. As I spoke out, guys, Aveda doesn't mean lost. It means, is it in the level of Shmira that we could have required the person to watch? Geneva Aveda is a sug. In other words, if I can fit the action that happened into the category of Geneva Aveda, then he's chayiv. If I can't fit it in that category, but it remains in the category of oinus yipata, it gives you a whole different perspective of shemasacha and shemachinam, right? It's not pshat that an oinus. It's not pshat that an act of geneva, an act of aveda. We used to, guys, I'll give you an act of aveda that you pata on. Tavai svinasa bayam. You have cargo. It went ahead and it sank in the sea. Is that an aveda? Is it shemasacha pata? Yeah, he's pata. It's an oinus. I'll give you an example of Geneva or Gazela. Listen to Mizillion. The guy comes with a gun. Yapata. So, in other words, I think we have to expand our understanding of Geneva, Aveda, and Oinus to be a level of Shmira that's required. No Shemesach is required to go ahead and give his life because the guy put a gun to his head. You'll say the physical act was Geneva. That's not pshat. His shmira ended when the guy put the gun to his head. This guy's natural kidinatri entry. He watched the way you watched. That's considered a shmira, therefore you pata. Guys, you good? It's important to get this down. We're going to have a whole parak. Ashoyel is the next parak. This is the parak that deals with Shomrim. This is the introduction to Shomrim that go ahead and appear throughout Shas. So, Rabbi patted him because he said, not the kidinatri inshi. Amalei abaya elamiyata, you can tell me the following. Oil lemasa b'idnid ayi inshi, he leaves the flock and he comes up to the city in the time that people come up to socialize. Hachanami the pata, you can tell me he's pata. Amalei said, Rabbi to Abaya, he's pata. In other words, that's the level of shmira that you hired him out for, fellas. You, in your mind, are saying that's Pashia Dov, right? Dov is saying, Dov is a very practical guy. He's saying, you're hired to, right? How could you leave the flock and go to the city? Isn't that being negligent? And the answer is, when you are hired out, it's understood that at the time that people go up, you can go up. That's the level of shmira that's required. Again, we're expanding our understanding of what it means to be shomer. Gonna put the beidna the gonna inshi. He took a little siesta, the time where people take a siesta, and something happens to his flock. Achanami the pata. Amalei said, Rabba, you're right. You will be pata. That's Rabba's opinion. Esevei, we're going to ask on Rabba. Elohim einsin sheshem esacha pata aleihem. These are the einsin that Hashem esacha is pata on. Kigoin. There's a pasuk in Eov. You know, Eov went through some horrible incidents, and one of the incidents is that his flock was decimated and his shemim of the flock were killed. So the pasuk says, "Vatipol Shiva." Shiva is a group of a nation of bandits. Vatikachem, and they took the flock. Ve'esan ha'orim hikul lefi charev, and they went ahead and they went ahead and literally killed. They killed the people watching it. So what do you see? That level of einus. That's the level of einus where you get killed. But stamazoi natra kidinatri inshi, just right. That is not considered what a regular einus is carved like an eva aveda. In other words, you're trying to define what an einus is. An einus is where listam mizuyin. We have people come down that, but stamazoi taking your flock to the river and one slipping away. That's carved le aveda, and therefore you should be chayiv. So we're asking on Rabba's idea from this pasuk in Eov that apparently defines oinus, guys, as mamish listam mizuyin, right? It's defining oinus as a guy coming down and coming down upon him. So Amalei, so Rabba told the buyer, Pasam b'chaznoi masa. They were not speaking about a regular shomer. They were speaking about the shomer of the city. The shomer of the city gets paid more, I guess. Says Rashi, b'chaznoi masa, shomer o'ir b'layla. Shekol smach anshe ir aleim. Everyone depends upon them. Lishmar gufam mamoinam. Hanu vaday boyne tirusi seirasa. This shemesacha needs extra. This shemesacha needs extra, and that's what the oinus is defined over here. That person would be chayiv, but a regular shemesacha in nota kidinatri inshi would be pata. Guys, how we doing? We're good. Yeah, we're good, right? It's clear. Yes, I hope so. Eseve Abaya again questions Rabba. Ad Masai Shema Sacha Chayev Lishmar Ad Kedei Yisi B'Yoyim Achalani Chayev. This is the pasuk by Yaakov Avinu. Until Achalani Chayev the Kerach Balayla Batida Shinasi Meinai. You know, Shema Sacha's got to do a shmira. Yaakov Avinu did a shmira, guys. He mamish watched it day and night in the hottest weather and in the coldest night. So you see, this is a Shema Sacha. So obviously, not the kidinatri, and she is not going to wash, right? Your idea of Rabba about a shmira for a shemesacha is not going to go ahead and wash, right? It's not going to go ahead and wash. So says the Gemara, Amalei ati Yaakov Avinu chazem asa Amalei hasanami b'chazem asa. He's considered a shemer of the city. So Amalei said Abaya to Rabba or to Yaakov Avinu Chosam Masani. L'chayra, he's a regular shemesacha. He was being paid by Lavan to watch the sheep. So you're telling me he was watching he wasn't watching the city. He's not that extra level of shmir you're describing, right? I'll watch that higher level of shmira like the one of the city. So enochinami, he's going to say, I'm gonna watch more than the norm. But enochinami, a normal person, natri entry, will be what pata. Abaya continues to question Rabbi. Eseve, roya shaya roya v'niach edroi ubalair, a roya that is shepherding his flock. Ubalair, he comes to the city, bazei v'tarav, comes along a wolf and rips. Ba'ari v'doris, the Ari comes and pounces. Ein oimdim ilu hoya sham hoya matzel. We don't go ahead or oimdim or oimrim. We don't say if he'd been there, he could save him. Elo oimrim I say, im yachal lahatzel chayiv. If you could save it, you chayiv im lav pata. My lav the oil bidnid ali inshi, and nonetheless, what we say it's not enough. We have to ask him: is it possible to save? According to you, Rabbi, oil once you go up the way that once you go up the way that oil ba'adni inshi, once you go up that way, then you're good. According to this, you see that what? No, you ask him. Could you have done something or not? So you see that oil not the Kidanachi and she is not good enough. It says well loyal. The oil bidn't loyal and she. Speaking, we went up not in the right time. Yehachi on my part. That's why is he part. Chilasa b'shia of the slave of boinus. Okay, chilasa b'shia guys that a smaller animal that he could have chased, he would have come, and it's slave of boinus. We had this sugi earlier in a mafkid. We went now. The riff is paishit from here. That chilas b'shia b'seif b'maynis is chayiv. What's the timing, guys? We're asking outside. Rabbi said, "Natra kidinachi inshi." This is enough for shmir v'shem esacha. Read the Gemara. We have a case over here. If a guy goes up to the city, comes along what a wolf or a lion, they do the job. We could the guy save him or not? Isn't it speaking that he went up in the time that people went up? And nonetheless, the possibility exists that he's chayiv if he could have saved them. Kashan Rabba, who said unequivocally across the board, once oil, when oil ba'ayil then actually inshi yapata, says the Gemara, no, it's speaking where he went up in the time where what you weren't supposed to go up. The Gemara, why is he pata? Why is he pata then? He didn't do shmira. So the Gemara kasha. The oil bidnid loyali and she ichachi am I pata? Why is he pata? Now what's the kasha? L'chari guys, what's he going to do against a wolf or a bear or a lion? Here's the kasha. By going up in the time where people don't normally go up, he was paisheya that a smaller animal that he could have chased away. He was paisheya so that the soifa ba'oinis that it was a larger animal, a wolf or a lion. Chayiv. Says the Gemara, and for the Gemara, the Shoma Kol Aryeh v'oil. It's not speaking where he stam went up. He heard the roar of a lion. Since he heard the roar of a lion, he went. Guys, there used to be lions in Eretz Yisrael. You know that. It's fascinating. There used to be lions in Eretz Yisrael. Shimshon was in Eretz Yisrael. He killed a lion. And there were lions in Eretz Yisrael. They haven't been there for years, but there were lions in Eretz Yisrael. So now he heard the roar of the lion, and he got scared, and he went up. And therefore, it's not chilasoi b'pshia, because he went up because he heard the word of lion, and therefore he's pata because why? Because it's an inus. The ihachi oimdim mysa, my havlo never. As the lion was there, what do you mean when making an evaluation? What do we say to him? You can't do anything. It says maybe he could have gone ahead and gathered other shepherds together with sticks and chased off the lion. You're telling me that he could go ahead and gather other people. That's a pshia by not doing that. So even Hashem Echinam should be chayiv. The Hamar Hu Da'ama Hashem Echinam Shoyel Lekadim Beroy Makles like Kidim chayiv. Says the Gemara Hashem Echinam Bechinam Hashem Esacha Besacha. Hashem Esacha Einachinami. Hashem Esacha he has to hire people. Now the chiddush over here is he has to pay people to come save the animals. Yad Kama, how much does he have to pay them? Ad Kedei the Mayhem, right? And he has to pay them till the worth of the animals. How would you ever find the Shem Esacha that's Chayav B'Einsin? The Hada Shakal the Meimi Balabayas. In other words, if the Shem Sacha has to pay these guys, no one's going to be Shem Sacha. Guys, you pay me $500 to watch your sheep. If the animals come and I can hire other people for $500, I'm a chayv to do it. For the Gemara, why would I want to be a Shem Sacha? Maybe I won't make a dime. And for the Gemara, it's speaking the Hada Shakal the Meimi Balabayas. You're able to go ahead and take back the money from the balabas, right? So now the question is, so why would the balabas, if the whole flock is worth, what is he gaining if he's paying the money anyway? Right, Mina, what did he gain? So guys, watch. Shemisach is watching the flock. Flock is worth $500. Shemisach is going to have to pay the $500. So who's going to collect the money from? From the owner. Now, why would the owner pay $500 for a flock that's worth $500? What's he gaining? And for the Gemara, he's gaining that he knows this flock. He's accustomed to these animals. They know him. He doesn't have to go ahead and buy new ones. That's what he's getting. They don't agree with Rabba of a natural kedinatri inshi. They hold that that's not a good enough shmira. That's why I paid you. I paid you in order that you should do what? A better job. I paid you that you should do what? A better job, and therefore this seems to be an halacha, not like Rabba, that if you do the natural inshi is enough, but in Achinami, you have to do a better job. But Ada Sabullah, Rabbi was a shlepper, a porter. She was passing animals across the river Narish. Agamra is on a bridge. There was a bridge, and he was one animal pushed the other one. And threw it off the bridge into the water, and it was lost. So also the Bala Behema came, L'kamei the Rapapa. He was going to be Taveya from Bar Ada. The Chayver of Ada, Chayver Bar Ada to pay. So Amalei Bar Ada told Rapapa, my Havilel Mevid, I'm an oinus, what could I have done? So Amalei, Rapapa told him, Boy L'chol Abure Chada Chada. You should have passed them across the river one by one. You shouldn't have gone ahead and take them out side by side where one can push the other. Pass them single file, and therefore you don't have to worry. So Amalei Bar Pada said, Yedativ Bey Bibar Achtech, and the Matzi Lemevad Chada Chada. Right? It's not the normal way for a person to go ahead and do that. In other words, it's not the same. So Amalei Bar Pada said, Kvart Sofchu Kamek the Kamach, Ika the Ashkabahu. The people that claimed that earlier, and I didn't listen to them, that brought that Rapapa, like Rav Chisda and Rabbi Rav Huna, that Hashem Esacha is Chayiv, and it's not enough to say that you could pass, yet the Shmir Yisera. Since you have to do a Shmirasa Yisera and the Tirusa Yisera, you have to pass them across one by one. You can't go ahead and do it single file, you have to do it not side by side. Avoy, a person named Avoy, Afgid Kisana, he entrusted his flax, Beirunya, to Runya. And Runya was a Shem Achinam. Azal Shavai came along this Gan of Shavai. I always wondered why some people are Zeicha to be mentioned in the Gemara. Michael ben Drusai, right? Ben Drusai was a rabbi. And you cook food, Michael ben Drusai, right? So here you have a person, Shavai. Michael ben Drusai is even halacha, we mentioned him, right? This is fascinating. So I don't know what Shavai did, but he was a rabbi. So came along Shavai, this Ganef, and he was an armed rabbi. Vishamte, and he took away the pishtin mat from Ivoy, except from Runya. L'soif hukra Ganef. In the end, he recognized that Shvoy was the Ganef. So Asa Ivoy l'kamed Rav Nachman. He came in front of Rav Nachman to pay a Runya to din. The Chayev, Rav Nachman was Chayev Runya to pay the worth of the plishtim, the worth of the pishtin, to pay the worth of what of the flax. Why? Because hukra Ganef. Lema pligi. Let's say Rav Nachman disagrees. Rav Huna bar Ravin. The Shalach Rav Huna bar Ravin nignava ba'oinis. If an animal was stolen ba'oinis, the Akka chukar Ganef, and afterwards he recognized the Ganef. Im Shemachinam who nishba, he can swear, right? Ratza nishba and get off the hook. Ratza oisem medinu, he can pay. In other words, if a hooker again, if the question is, are you mechuyev to get it back? So the Shemachinu can swear and say I wasn't paisheya, or he can go ahead and pay him. That's the Shemachim has that option. Okay. Then Shemesachahu, if he's a Shemesacha, oise imay din ve'enay nishba. Then what? He doesn't have a choice. He can't swear. He has to pay. So l'chayra, Runya was a shemachinam, and and Rav Nachman was mechuyev him to pay. So let's hold Rav Nachman disagrees with the psak of Rav Huna bar Avin, because Rav Huna bar Avin held the shemachinam is pater. He can swear and pater himself. Runya was a shemachinam, and Rav Nachman's making him pay. So let's say he argues, Amarava Hasam by Rav Huna bar Avin, he's moided that the shemachinam has to pay, because when he stole it, Gavrei de Pramuskta Havikaime. There were cops there, and he could have gone ahead. The Rame Kola, if Runya would have opened his mouth and screamed out robbers, Havi Icy Maxilan way. In other words, he was Pesheya, guys. Einachinami. Rav Nachman could have agreed with the psak of Rav Huna bar Avin that if the hooker aganif, if you're a shemachinam, you get off the hook. Runya was a shemachinam, but Rav Nachman was mechayev him because there was a special Metzia in that case. There were armed guards over there. I mean, there were people around there. And had Runya just opened his mouth and said, I'm being stolen, Shava is stealing from me, then what? Then they would have listened. They would have listened. And so he was pesheya that he didn't. And thus Rav Nachman was mechayev him to pay.